Welcome to Aqua Talks, where marketing meets bold, game-changing ideas. Join your hosts, Larry Aldrich and Mady Dudley, as they explore the art and science of cutting through the noise, capturing attention, and fostering meaningful connections with your audience. Whether you're a destination marketer, government contractor, or simply passionate about the transformative power of marketing, Aqua Talks offers engaging discussions, fresh insights, and actionable strategies designed to inspire and inform.
Welcome to Aqua Talks, where we dive into the world of marketing. Whether you're a seasoned marketer in hospitality, tourism, or destination, whether you're in the private sector or government contracting, we talk about the insights to help elevate your marketing and grow your footprint. Today, we'll be talking with Siraj Bharwani with Illumin, and Siraj has a couple other companies that he's started. He's been in this industry, he's been in this world for quite a long time. He has a wealth of information. So this should be a really good segment, really good conversation that we're having. My original host, Mady, isn't here today. She's working on some other projects, but we have our intelligence officer, Chip, that we'll be working with, that will be having this conversation with us today. Siraj, how are you doing?
I am doing just fine, Larry. Really delighted to be here.
Thank you. We're happy to have you today. Chip, how are you doing today? Everything?
Doing great. Not Mady, so sorry to the listeners and viewers out there. I hope our numbers don't tank too bad by me being on here instead of her. But very excited to join this conversation with Siraj. Being in the digital space most of my life, this guy's one of the pioneers, and it's great to have him on the podcast with us today.
Hopefully, you won't be tripping over your words like I've been doing this morning.
I'll trip.
It's been an early morning. So Aqua Talks is powered by Brensis Technology, LLC. And today we're going to be talking with Siraj about the algorithmic traveler, decoding desire, inspiring personalized journeys with e-tourism. With that, Siraj, let's just jump right in. I know there were a few things that we were talking about earlier where you wanted to kind of like start to lead this conversation. So why don't you just jump right in, and we're curious to hear what you have to say.
So yeah, Larry, this is a very interesting topic that's near and dear to me. I love this. And the other part of it is, as much as I promised you that I would never really go anywhere close to the terms AI or intelligence or any of those words, because now it's kind of out there, in the world of buzz language, right? Just for the audience's knowledge, I come from the world of autonomous navigation. That's where I have my fundamental degree in what is called pattern intelligence or machine intelligence or pattern recognition, you name it. There are many different words for it because the history here is good 70 years kind of in the making, right? So I was a robot scientist. That's my background. I did machine vision or computer vision, as it was called. And that world, as arcane as it was, if you sort of now see it with, driverless cars running around in several US cities, frankly, it's a vision and a machine, the dream that has really finally come true, right? But I left that world way back in the mid-90s because at the time, the computational power was simply not there and so forth. So I came into the world of digital marketing, digital advertising. And I found out that this was the world where there was so much data available to really identify patterns. And where I focused was on patterns of consumer behavior. So you see the connection.
Yes.
I just want the audience to know that I took the same learnings from my own thesis that I was working on and brought it into the world of consumers. And so let's bring it closer now to travel, tourism, destination marketing, and how is all this relevant, right? So let's start by the fact that while there was a serious aberration in the trend right around COVID, when travel shut down and then it came back, was called a revenge travel and all of that, right? I think we are back into somewhat of a steady pattern, right? But there are a few things that simply haven't changed. And I think those are the parts that are worth paying attention to here. First of all, planning windows for the consumers are long. Something that has truly surprised me, for the most part, frankly. The reason is, if you look at the statistics, right? 80% of the tourists who plan travel are taking more than a month to plan for it. Actually, it ranges anywhere from a month all the way to 6 months, depending on how long the travel is, how far you might be going, is it local versus international, all of that, right? Second, most of the tourist travel really amounts to longer stays. These are 4+ day stays, right? And so these tend to be a little bit more complex. There are more activities involved and so forth. So clearly that's why more planning is required. And last year at Shop Talk, I was speaking with the CMO of Holland America, Casey Cole. And I was getting into like, okay, what's really so complicated about cruising and booking for cruising and really cruise travel and stuff like that? And why does it take long? And what are the channels through which you actually get those bookings, and so forth. And I found out, interestingly, good half of their bookings, or even more than that, really happen through travel agents and through calling. Why? Because it's complex, it's expensive, and people have tons of questions. And those questions simply don't get answered in general online or in online forums and so forth. People really need people to talk with, right? And so those are some of the things to worry about. And the tourists have many travel options, right? I mean, look at this. Here's another statistic. Barely 25% of the people actually go to the same destination. Repeat visits are not common. People are exploring new options, new places to go to, and so forth. Clearly, what that means is they need more guidance, right? And so I wanted to boil that down to a few key observations that I have. There's one last thing, though. I forgot about that. The biggest red flag in anything to do with travel, booking, reservations, and associated activities. Did you know, Larry, 85%, north of 85% of the people who end up within a booking environment, what is cart, so to speak, abandon. Over 85% cart abandonment. This is crazy. I was talking with the SVP of TripAdvisor. They reach 400 million people annually for booking. For such high abandonment, this is just absolutely crazy, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so here's the upshot. What does all of this mean, right? What this means is a ton of questions that consumers have in the process of planning and booking and so forth simply remain unanswered, which is seriously a problem. Number two, there's a lot of room for offering education and transparency. Look at the online forums. Significant number of complaints are associated with lack of price transparency, rate transparency, lack of what services are really available, what they qualify for, and when, under what circumstances, right? And then there is a lot of room for also offering a little bit more personalized. People want to know that whoever they are dealing with, doing business with, actually understands at least something about them so that they can make it a little bit more relevant. All of those things sound like commonsensical, but to have so many issues in this particular environment, it just doesn't seem right. There's just a lot of room for improvement. That's basically what I see right now in this business.
That's a lot to absorb at the moment. So it takes a lot of research and a lot of insight, and that's never really looked at it that way. And thanks for bringing that to our attention. So that's something that will definitely
do you
be.
disagree, though?
No,
do you guys have
completely.
different
When you think
observations,
about
Chip?
it,
Do you think differently?
no. When you think about it, I do agree. And that insight is thought-provoking, actually, very.
We can kind of carry along the same turn there because, that amount of abandonment obviously presents some opportunities. So what opportunities do you see in destination marketing given the prevailing trends in consumer travel behavior, particularly in North America? I mean, it makes more sense, particularly for international travel. You talk of price transparency. A lot of countries, for example, you just go to the store and you see not that you're going to go on vacation and buy a TV, but if you see a TV and let's say it's €1,000, that's the price you're going to pay when you walk out the store. All the taxes and everything else, the fees are baked into that. So I can understand the side where you're talking the consumer might have some hesitation about the transparency because, we have resort fees and tourism tax and all the other, elements that might be on top of that. What opportunities do you see for possibly addressing that or possibly in that situation, increasing click-through, the purchase instead of abandoning the cart?
Yeah, I think some of the things that we have been trying to solve for, like there is no silver bullet chip, you know that, right? So you can progressively get to addressing these things so that you get improvement over time, right? One of the things that on our side that we have been looking at is really you want to get as close to the consumer as you can and get them for them to be participating in the dialogue. The more you know about the consumer and the more you learn from them when they are in the journey towards sort of planning for travel, right? And I'm using here journey as a metaphor, right? More in terms of like you're going over time, you're interacting, planning, and so forth. You're seeking advice from different people, including the brand you want to work with. The idea is, which we believe in, is if you can get into some sort of a participative dialogue where there is a progressive discovery that's happening over time, you are anticipating some things because of a little bit you know about the consumer or the user. They are providing you some more information about where they are right now, because clearly that's going to be more accurate, right? Any data that I may have collected on a typical user will most likely be old. It'll be a week old, a month old, 6 months old, depending on the source from where I got the data, right? If they were interacting with some other websites and I had established their preference, well, is that preference still relevant today? And I think you're always kind of, there is room for error there. You could be out of context, right? And so when I use the term connected journeys, what I mean by that is you want to be in that progressive connection over vertical and a variety of touch points, right? So that every time you interact with the user, they are giving you a little bit more. And you reach them the next time, they give you a little bit more. And so as you collect that information, you really are able to truly customize what it is that they are looking for. You're clarifying it. You're providing truly relevant guidance just in time. And therefore, by the time you reach the cart, it isn't any type of, disconnect of sorts, that there are no missed expectations, there is all sorts of things that usually end up being, it's like, oh, I wish I hadn't done it. Well, no, you wouldn't, because you were party to that. You made the choices. So the more you can get the user to be more participative, the less the room for that type of abandonment that you see at the tail end of it. And so that's why the whole idea of connected journeys that we brought to the table, or frankly, we aren't the only ones. There are many other companies that are talking about it now. But 5 years ago, we brought something to life. And there are solutions like that available in the market that help you progressively get better on that front.
Well, consumer behavior has become fluid with the choices, the available choices, influenced by many factors and trade-offs and aspirations of affordability. What's notable today about consumer interests and preferences in the state-of-the-art data and algorithms?
Yeah, I think here I would say that there are a few things that we have known all along, which are the predominant signals that marketers have been using and highly relevant to tourism marketers in general. And that's demographics that are easily accessible, past behavior is accessible, preferences are accessible, context and intent. Those are the predominant signals that we have normally had. But I think the way to think about it is that there is no real expectation from the consumer that whoever is interested in doing business with them know everything about them upfront. As a matter of fact, it's highly risky to communicate with a user and let them know that you know just about anything there is to know about them. It's just scary. I don't like it. I hate it. When a marketer reaches out to me, I'll give you an example. I was in Miami a few months ago. I was in a restaurant with a client. I paid the bill. I came out, got in the car. Just as I was turning on the ignition to the car, I received a message. And the message was from one of the hotel brands that actually told me that I had just received a bunch of reward points, completely sort of unrelated in my mind from what it had to do with my purchase at the restaurant and the bill I just paid. It turns out that this was a partnership between, now I have to express the brands because it's not going to make any sense what I'm saying. It was Marriott and American Express that had behind the scenes made a partnership where if I pay something with my American Express card, I receive reward points on my Marriott Bonvoy points because of that restaurant transaction. Now, I'm saying, how in the world did Marriott Bonvoy figure out that I had done this transaction with my American Express card? I had no notice. There was no notification. The brand never told me. And so you see, even though from both of these brands' perspective, it was supposed to be a positive news. I should be excited that something good happened to me, that I earned more reward points without me asking for it explicitly or what have you. It just made me pause a little bit. It's like, how much do they really know about me and what I do in any given day, right? You see where I'm going with that? It's like knowing too much and knowing a lot isn't necessarily an expectation. It can sometimes be negative. And so when you ask me the question, what's knowable? My hope is that ultimately we'll get to a point of the scenario that I described earlier. This idea of progressive discovery, where you are using some information to guide the user, but you are also getting them to contribute to that dialogue and giving you the info so that they feel like I gave the info because I know there is benefit. There is a quid pro quo associated with that whole relationship. Larry, you understand where I'm going,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's one part. But there is tremendous amount of improvement that could be made even in the first interaction, by the way. So I have two more ideas on that front.
Okay.
And these are all recent advancements in probably the past 3 to 5 years. And I think you will see more of this. One is what I refer to as cohort-based personalization. What that is very simple. And it's the whole idea behind labeled data. And Chip, you are familiar with all of the latest advancements in AI, and you've been looking at that. And the best thing I can do is to relate the experience we all have with Netflix, right? Why is it that the Netflix recommendations tend to work, tend to be relevant? Because tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of people are consuming content. And based on the grouping and the label data that they have for, if people did X, Y, Z things, they would want that. There is labeling that's associated with the data. There's a clear correlation in behavior, right? Okay, Now, let me apply this example to tourism. Imagine this, all right? Smoky Mountains National Park. It was interesting for me to discover as I was doing some research recently for one of the DMOs. Over 12 million people go there every year. That's a lot of people going to one destination. Imagine if we had labeled data on correlation. These people who go there, they do these types of media consumption, they go to these types of channels, they end up in this particular locations within the Smoky Mountains, and they follow through with other behaviors post visit to all of these places. Just like Netflix, okay? If you had labeled data like that, imagine what you could do in terms of the level of guidance, advice that you could actually provide. As a matter of fact, Smoky Mountain Resort could actually have its own AI chatbot where you could come in, interact with it, and based on what other people have actually done, it could really bring you some amazingly relevant thoughts, ideas in terms of what you could do the next time you come there, right? Okay, that's at a more brand level. Now, carry that thing further. Just the generative AI overall, like the chatbots, they're out there, like ChatGPT, Gemini, all of these things, right? This will be the final frontier in the way that when a prompt is issued, let's say I'm interested in going to some destination, right? I am providing so much information. I'm providing intent. I'm providing my requirement. I'm providing context. I'm providing my expectations. I'm setting all the variables in terms of I'm going with 4 people. I'm going with friends. I'm going, these are the things I actually want to do. One single request, everything packaged together. Imagine how many things you can actually deliver in one pass. Literally, what I earlier described to you as a connected journey is compressed into just 1 or 2 interactions. This is absolutely nuts in terms of what is coming to us, in what is possible, and creative generated on the fly to give you the message that's also relevant with the right visuals, all happening in real time. Now, what's the holdup? The holdup is none of these chatbots have yet figured out what the real model is for the brands to engage, right? That is yet to be figured out. So we are clearly a few years away. But what is possible is a whole next level of personalization that's going to happen, and how much is knowable. But the interesting part, Larry, on this thing, and I'm referring to you, Chip, as well, interesting part is it's how much information the consumer is willing to provide to you. We're not making any expectations in terms of what the brand needs to know in advance. This is how we've always thought about it in the past. And here is the user willing to give you that info. And so what you can do on the basis of that is what we need to figure out now. That's a whole different set of responsibility that the brands now will have. And what can you do for them when you know this much info?
You speak to that, and it brings a whole different level of personalization, and it gets around, because the consumer's providing it gets around the issue of what you were speaking to earlier, where all of a sudden someone just goes, surprise, I know all this information about you. Well, if you're having and people look at AIs differently. Almost, how many people, with the whole thing came up in the news recently, how many megawatts of power are used for people just saying thank you to the AI. I can't help it when it solves a problem for me or fixes some code or something. Thank you. It's just something you do. But I'm going to play devil's advocate for a minute and flip it completely. So we talk about that personalization, and I agree 100%. I think, that level of data we're going to get provided by the consumer to help them. It's win-win, right? In that scenario. But let's just play devil's advocate. So does the personalization really matter? We've been talking about this for seemingly decades, much more so in the last decade anyway. So to what extent can the consumer journey be truly unique at an individual level?
Yeah. So just because something is doable doesn't mean it is worth doing. That's where you're coming from, Chip. I love that kind of conversation, right? There are tons of things we can do, but does anybody care, and does it even matter, right? And I think here, I think it matters to an extent. Yes, to an extent, as I said. The part that I usually have problems with are the things like referring to communications like, hey, Chip, kind of communications, right? It's like just cosmetic fix, right? It's
Insert
like I'm
first
making
name
you
here.
believe
Yeah.
that it's truly personal, but fundamentally, there isn't really anything that is truly relevant or like tailored to me, right? That part I have a problem with. And I just don't continue those types of dialogues. Just as a consumer, when somebody reaches out to me like that, it's just comes across as a little fake, right? On the other hand, take a look at what Tennessee tourism has actually done in a couple of their campaigns that they did. It's just fabulous what they did. Just take a look at what they did, okay? Here's a great example. What they did is they recognized that the types of people who would be most excited about visiting Tennessee are the people who are nature lovers, people who are music enthusiasts, and people who are really more into family fun. Okay. They bucketed them into like 3 large groups, right? Then what they decided to do is they found all the things that are fun for these types of people. And so, like, I mentioned earlier about the Smoky Mountains, right? And so it's like the national park where there are a million different things you can actually do. It's probably the best, most visited place, right, in the country. And so they've come up with nice examples of things these people can do, the nature lovers can do. And so put those activities on the side for a second. Then they found music enthusiasts who love countries, blues, rock and roll, all of those different varieties of music, and where they could be going to consume those, the concerts they could be attending, the halls where they actually have these things, all of that stuff, right? And then for families, it's more about family adventure, Southern food, hospitality, all those specific things, like really classic Southern stuff, right? And what they do from all of that, their agency created some amazingly beautiful creative treatments from that. Over 2,000 variations of those treatments. And then these communications were actually done in all those ways, in all the different channels where they knew they could reach those types of peoples based on their past behavior and the knowledge and the things that we've talked about earlier, right? These guys really have truly achieved a level of personalization. I'm talking about here, this is not one-to-one, but this is truly at the cohort level thing. And they've proven it that not only this level of personalization works, but it truly drives impact. Like they've seen real impact, both in terms of consumer spend as well as tax receipts to the state. So you see the distinction,
Yes.
right?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
It's this is not fake. This is like real. Like if I'm a music enthusiast, I actually want to know those things.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense and kind of leads into capabilities. So what capabilities are required to deliver a stellar consumer experience and inspire passionate evangelism?
So I
tourism
think
and destination.
this part, you guys will relate with this really well. And Chip, you and I have been in this business for just as long.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully this will make sense. Like I bucket the developments and the innovations essentially in 4 eras of how we have arrived where we have arrived. And are we all doing the best of all of these things? Not even by a long shot. We are still all work in progress here,
Mm-hmm.
right? But start with this, the first decade, digital, right? We were all focused on precision. We wanted everything to be precise in digital advertising, digital marketing, right? So we were trying to solve for what? We were trying to solve for unduplicated reach and frequency, right? Just the bare bones, right? That level of control is still an issue, as the channels have multiplied all over the place, right? So duplication is still happening, right? But it's getting better. Look, development of clean rooms and all of those things have actually improved. You can dedupe stuff, and so you can actually get relatively precise communications to the right audiences, right? So we are improving. We've come a long way there. The next phase was prediction. Now, this was about solving the channel problem. Where is going to be the next logical place for engagement? If I've delivered a message to you on streaming, what's the next place you might be in? Would I be able to find you on social? Would I be able to find you on some other unique publisher sites or blog posts, or where am I actually find you? How would I know? Well, that was the part of the whole machine learning and the prediction. If I know what are the logical places where you will end up, and therefore I can deliver you sort of the message there, right? Okay, so that's the prediction problem. The next decade was all about solving for that problem. Okay. Finally, over the last, I would say 5 to 7 years, it's all about persuasion. You've heard this thing in trade press, right? A lot. What is the next best message I can deliver to you, and how do I craft that message? How do I test for it? How do I control for it? All of those things, right? And so that is active right now. Like all this Gen AI business and discussion about how can I get creative variations, all of that stuff, right? This is all about, okay, can we solve for the message? How can I get control over the creative, the best creative I deliver, and the right offer I deliver, and what combinations I deliver with is what's being solved. And we are kind of there. Maybe a third of the people are really doing and testing, and all of that, like the Tennessee tourism that I was talking about. This is a beautiful example, right? That's it. You can't get 2,000 variations. You're going to need some sort of a, persuasive message generation capability based on the briefs and so forth, and then you can create that. Some are doing manually, others are doing it, moving on, right? But here's the final frontier. This is the proof of incremental growth and ROI. I'll underline incremental. This is hard. Now, of all the numbers that I've seen, both with clients who we have worked with and the ones who actually have gone public, numbers usually are shown in aggregate. But Larry, what aggregate numbers do. It's the end of the campaign where whoever was running the campaign, who was championing it, whether the CMO or whoever it was, is going to the state board and actually saying, see how great we are. Last year versus this year, or 5 years ago versus this year, that kind of numbers. The fact of the matter is, if the numbers weren't that great, what are you going to do? It's all done. It's behind us at this point. So the problem we are all trying to solve for now is what I refer to as closed loop attribution and optimization, which means you want to know all of that stuff while the program is running. And that's the problem we are trying to solve for literally right now. This is the frontier where you've got 5 channels active. Here are the 3 that are actually delivering better results, and therefore I should be moving money around. How should I do that? Next week and the week after. That's the problem that we need to be able to solve. And we really haven't completely gotten there. As a matter of fact, these discussions are happening right now. Literally, like it was last week, I was talking with 3 different partners to figure all of this thing out based on actual results, actual bookings, actual visits. All of those things is what really matters.
Yeah, you speak to ROI. It's having been on the other side, working in a destination. That's what we could throw. It's like the holy grail, of destination marketing, is being able to have that attribution. And we made some baby steps along the way, and some big steps. Arrivalist, for example, when they came out. Now there's other companies, Artico, Placer, et cetera, that can do some attribution, and then companies like Epsilon, Conversant, that are doing a track through based on attributing to a sale. But again, it comes to those buckets, but we haven't fully solve that. So to that regard, what are some benchmarks for ROI on budgets that you would typically allocate to advertising by the DMOs?
So here's the thing, right? Many states don't really report these numbers publicly, but the ones that we've worked with and where we have permission and numbers have been reported publicly because they've gone on stage and talked about it and so forth, there are a few. And I think we should think through this in two ways. There's the ROI with a clear return on whatever paid media investments have actually been done. You can add to that also your resources, people, agency fees, everything else, because it needs to be fully bundled. If you're going to do a real ROI, you got to, account for all the different costs that go into really running your total marketing department, right? One way is to really measure it in terms of commercial development, which is real consumer spending that happens in the region where you're trying to bring people. And number two is the tax receipts, because the government really sees the impact of that on tax dollars, right? There is another way also that I have seen with several states that we have worked with, where the effort is to spread out the development. So much of it, Chip, you and Larry, you guys have actually seen. Europe is just absolutely screaming nuts right now because they got issues with tourist crowding certain regions and sustainability becomes issues for them and so forth. And therefore, they are essentially increasing the fees to discourage overcrowding of certain spaces and so forth, right? That's actually happening in certain states where what you're getting is people go to one or two cities, and that's where most of the tourist traffic comes, and the rest of the region is just barren. Even though they have some beautiful environments where people could actually benefit, they'll enjoy it and so forth, but it's just not places people go to. And so that's another way to think about how the ROI impact happens, because you have broadened the impact of the tourism into the wider state and not just to just same places where everybody goes, right? So let me go down the list of things that I've seen. So number one, Tennessee tourism, right? They've done a bunch of interesting campaigns. One of the campaigns they did was called the Soundtrack of America, Made in Tennessee. Very nice campaign, right? The ROI on that was frankly 19x. I mean, this is just incredible, right? And the tax receipts 11x. The other thing that they solved for, which is very interesting, very high intent for repeat visit intent. And so, because that's very hard to do, right? People are always looking for new places to go, but if they're going to go to the same place, they have to have more things to do, right? And so they are exposing people to more diversity, variety of things, and therefore people have a reason to want to come back, right? It's very nice. Pure Michigan has done some really interesting stuff. New Mexico, true. Visit North Carolina. All of those are really, really good campaign. But the one that's truly noteworthy is Visit California. One of the best campaigns. We had a great time, but we weren't the only ones. They had multiple vendors who participated in that whole program. Total net investment, if I recall correctly, was really very close to 100 million. Some numbers reported 75 million. I believe that's underestimated. There's invested over $100 million on this program. But the consumer spending on this was over $30 billion. And the tax receipts over $2 billion. So clearly, I mean, we are talking about an ROI that's just crazy out there, right? And so they've done really well. Now, in terms of spreading commercial impact, there are two programs that we've actually done which were purely with that expectation: Bahamas Tourism and Visit North Carolina. Now, interestingly, for Bahamas, most of the travel, 90+% of the tourists actually go to only two places: Nassau and Freeport. That's it. They have 14 other islands, beautiful beaches, like truly virgin beaches, like, people would love it. Nice hotel properties over there, clearly investments have been made, but not many people go there. And so our goal was to truly deliver nice, custom creative treatments with journeys to guide people to go visit those other islands. North Carolina, same way. People go to the same places, but they don't go into the woods. There are some nice, adventuresome places, beautiful, countryside, all of that stuff. But unless you really give people the incentive to want to try, so with North Carolina in particular, it was a very special offer that they provided. There was a price promotion sort of issued along with that you could actually win a trip to the woods and so forth, like fully paid. And so that program did extremely well. It got people to expose to other places within the Carolinas, which the client was really excited about. And they even went upstage, on I think one of the conferences last year to talk about it. So yeah, we're delighted. Some of those programs actually worked. So these are different ways, Chip, that states have actually seen results. But it's hard. It takes a lot of work. It just takes very thoughtful effort from partners like yourself. You guys are in this, and you've done this work for a long time. It takes a lot of experience and creativity to really make a difference.
Yeah, and a lot of time and like you were saying, a lot of work that has to be put in, and it's fun. We enjoy doing it. We continue to look for new and innovative ways, especially talking to you. You've brought a lot of really good, thought-provoking, as I mentioned, information earlier, which we definitely want to continue this conversation and continue conversations with you. We're always looking for new ideas, ways to help our marketing, help our clients, actually bring partners in to help our clients also. So this was a great conversation, and really want to look forward to having more conversation with you. I think there's a lot that we could talk about and actually put into plan and action later down the road. So thank you for being with us.
Of course. No, Larry, Chip, this was a great discussion.
Oh yeah, it was excellent.
I'd like to. We could do about 10 more parts of this.
Spend a lot more time with you guys.
We could definitely continue this.
Yeah.
We could keep going all day.
Oh, great conversation.
Yeah. So thanks for being with us, Siraj.
Of course.
Again, thank you for being on Aqua Talks and watching this episode. To learn more about Siraj, go to aquatalks.com. You can get more information on Aqua, marketing communications, Brent's technology. Definitely a lot more with Siraj. We're going to have a lot more with him. We'll have his bio on there and his contacts. Thank you for being with us, and we'll see you soon.
You've been listening to Aqua Talks, where marketing innovation takes center stage with bold ideas and actionable insights. Ready to take your strategies to the next level? Visit aquatalks.com to book your free consultation and explore resources that empower you to thrive in today's fast-paced marketing world. Until next time, stay bold, stay inspired, stay imaginative.